The Galactic Council station floated silently above the pale blue planet Cerealia. Its surface shimmered under the light of a distant sun, while the massive structure hovered like a jewel in space. Inside, representatives from dozens of alien civilizations moved through wide corridors, each species more unusual than the next. Some had shapes like flowing mist, some moved on many limbs, and others seemed to float without effort. They gathered in a large hall at the center of the station, where a holographic map of the galaxy stretched before them, showing hundreds of systems, trade routes, and colonies. Humans had only arrived recently in this part of space, but their reputation had begun to spread. Captain Daniel Lewis and Ambassador Claire Morgan were the human representatives. Daniel was tall and steady, with sharp eyes that missed nothing, while Claire was calm and precise, speaking clearly and making every word count. They were proud but cautious, knowing that the Council had not always welcomed humanity warmly. Humans were still young in galactic terms, and many aliens questioned their right to influence decisions. The first session began quietly. Delegates introduced themselves, each voice and gesture unfamiliar to the humans. Claire observed carefully, noting the subtle tension in the room. Many of the alien leaders spoke with a tone that implied humans were insignificant. A few whispered among themselves, casting curious or skeptical glances at Daniel and Claire. The Council expected humans to bow to tradition, accept limits, and promise cooperation under the guidance of older, more experienced species. Daniel and Claire had different instructions. Earth had recently formed a council to guide humanity's growth in space. Their message was clear. Humans would not be forced into submission or delayed unnecessarily. They were to show respect, but they were not to compromise human freedom or potential. As the session continued, Claire explained humanity's intentions. She spoke of exploration, science, and cooperation, emphasizing that humans had no desire to dominate but wished only to grow and learn. Alien delegates listened, but did not hide their doubt. Councillor Varel from Catal asked pointed questions about humanity's military capabilities and the speed of their colony's development. Others asked about technology and how humans manage their rapidly growing population. Daniel answered directly, showing confidence without aggression. Every detail of human progress was laid bare, yet some of the council still seemed unconvinced. Whispers of humans being reckless or dangerous floated through the hall. The first hours passed slowly. Daniel noticed the subtle ways aliens tried to test him. Some sent coded signals to one another, pointing out small mistakes or hesitations. Others seemed to ignore him, but their eyes betrayed curiosity and suspicion. Claire remained composed, addressing questions politely while emphasizing that humans wanted fairness. Neither human showed fear or impatience, though they were aware that the room was filled with beings who could easily overpower them if they chose. Despite the careful approach, tension grew. Counselors debated among themselves, sometimes loudly, casting doubt on whether humans could be trusted. A few seemed frustrated by the humans' refusal to bow to unspoken hierarchies. Daniel could feel the subtle pressure in the air, the kind that tried to make humans appear small and unimportant. He looked at Claire and she nodded slightly. Both understood that this was the beginning of a long test. As the session drew to a close, it became clear that there was no easy path. Humans had presented facts, evidence, and reason, but many aliens seemed unwilling to accept it. Some viewed humanity as a rising threat. Others simply could not respect a species that refused to follow tradition. Claire summarized their position carefully, emphasizing collaboration, exploration, and mutual benefit. Daniel added that humanity expected respect in return, not subjugation. The words were firm but measured. By the end of the day, the council hall emptied slowly. Delegates drifted back to their chambers or ships, still whispering and exchanging glances. Humans remained behind for a moment, looking at the holographic map of the galaxy. Daniel traced a line with his finger, imagining the worlds humanity might reach. Claire stood beside him quietly, understanding the weight of their position. They were not just representing a planet. They were representing the hope and future of a species that had fought hard to survive. Later, in their quarters, Daniel and Claire reviewed the events. They noted which council members seemed most skeptical and which might be persuaded. They planned for the next session, knowing that alien politics was complex and patience would be required. Yet, even in this early stage, The humans sensed that some in the galaxy were beginning to fear their determination and potential. It was not fear of violence, but fear of what a species like humanity could accomplish when it refused to be controlled. Outside the station, the stars stretched endlessly. Ships from various civilizations moved between systems, carrying goods, knowledge, and occasionally spies. Daniel looked at the view and spoke quietly. They do not see it yet, but humans will be more than they imagine. Claire nodded, her mind already mapping the next moves, the conversations to be had, the alliances to form. They understood that negotiations were only the first step, and the galaxy's perception of humanity was changing already. That night, the council hall was silent, but tension lingered. Some aliens returned to their quarters with uneasy thoughts. Rumors of humans' speed of development and unity spread quietly. Many feared that any underestimation could be costly. The human representatives slept little, but they were prepared. They understood that this was not only a meeting of minds, but a test of patience, skill, and resolve. When the next day began, Daniel and Claire would step into the hall again, ready to speak, to listen, and to assert humanity's place among the stars. They knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, but the first step had been taken. Humans had arrived, and they had already shown they would not bend under pressure. The galaxy might not understand them fully, but it had begun to notice, and notice was the first sign of respect or fear. Even in simple conversation, humans had left an impression. Aliens who thought of them as small or weak were beginning to rethink their assumptions. Every question answered, every calm explanation given, was a reminder that humanity was different, capable, and unafraid. Daniel and Claire both felt a quiet pride. They had not fought battles with weapons, but they had faced a challenge of wit, diplomacy, and courage. Outside the station, stars moved silently, carrying signals of events unseen. The galaxy was vast, but the humans were determined. Their species had survived floods, wars, famine, and plague on their home planet, and now they had reached for the stars. In this hall above Cerelia, surrounded by beings who doubted them, humans had taken their first real step into the wider universe. They knew that tomorrow, tensions would rise again, and some would still oppose them. But for now, they had stood firm. Humanity had a voice, and it was heard. It was the beginning of a journey that would not only change their species, but could change the balance of the galaxy itself. Daniel looked at Claire once more, and she smiled faintly, a shared understanding between them. They had made it through the first challenge. The council might not yet respect them fully, but humans had shown that they were not to be ignored, underestimated, or controlled. The galaxy would soon begin to realize that humans were not like any other species it had encountered. The next day, the council hall was crowded again, and the air felt heavier than before. Humans arrived early, Daniel and Claire moving calmly through the corridors. Alien delegates watched them carefully, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled suspicion. Daniel noticed the subtle tension in every glance, every gesture, and he felt the weight of the room on his shoulders. Today would be different. Today, discussions would grow more serious. The session opened with a formal greeting from the council head, a tall being with shimmering silver skin named Orin. He welcomed the humans politely, but with a tone that carried caution. Orin summarized the council's purpose: to establish rules for expansion, trade, and security in the galaxy. The council believed humans must be included, but also reminded them that there were limits they had to follow. Daniel and Claire listened carefully, neither showing frustration. The first topic was technology limits. Some alien leaders argued that humans had advanced too quickly and could destabilize neighboring systems. Councillor Virel from Cattle spoke sharply, suggesting that humans should be restricted in colonization and fleet development. Claire stood and responded clearly, stating that humans had always acted responsibly and that limiting their growth would not prevent conflict, it would only delay progress. Her voice was firm but calm, and for a moment the hall fell silent. Daniel added details about human colonies. He explained how each colony was self-sufficient, how humans cooperated with local life when possible, and how they avoided unnecessary conflict. Some aliens nodded slightly, but many frowned. The council had assumed humans would be limited by lack of resources or internal conflict, yet the facts did not match their expectations. Whispers spread across the hall, and Daniel realized that their presence alone was making some delegates nervous. The session moved to the question of military strength. Aliens were concerned that humans might use their fleets aggressively. Daniel responded without hesitation, explaining that humans kept fleets for protection, exploration, and trade support. He emphasized that humans did not seek to dominate, yet they would defend themselves and their colonies. Claire added that fear of humans was misplaced, but denying humans freedom could lead to unnecessary tension. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, realizing they had underestimated the humans. As the hours passed, the debate grew heated. Counselor Lyra from the planet Vesh openly accused humans of trying to control others with technology and speed. Daniel remained calm, explaining that humans simply worked quickly and efficiently. Claire pointed out that human progress came from cooperation and innovation, not from domination or deceit. Some aliens tried to interrupt or challenge them, but Daniel's calm voice and clear explanations held the room's attention. The council then introduced a treaty that would restrict human expansion beyond certain sectors. It was clear that the alien leaders expected agreement without protest. Claire studied the proposal carefully. She shook her head and spoke slowly, explaining that such limits were unfair and impossible to enforce. Daniel added that humans had already established colonies beyond those sectors, and forcing withdrawal would be both costly and dangerous. Alien delegates exchanged worried glances. A loud argument erupted when Varel insisted that humans must follow the treaty or face sanctions. Daniel stood tall and said clearly, "Humans will not accept limits set by fear or suspicion. We seek fairness, not conflict, but we will not be controlled." The hall buzzed with murmurs. Many delegates were shocked by the firmness of his words. Some whispered to each other, realizing that humans were serious and unafraid. Claire took the floor again, explaining that humans valued diplomacy and trade. She described how humans had helped resolve disputes on distant colonies and provided assistance to other species. "We want partnership, not confrontation," she said, "but we will not bow to rules that deny our right to exist and grow." Her words were calm, but the impact was powerful. Many council members had never seen a species speak so firmly without aggression. Tension in the hall continued to rise. Some delegates openly challenged humans, questioning their intentions and warning of consequences. Daniel and Claire remained composed, answering each accusation with facts, reason, and examples. The holographic map displayed human colonies, trade networks, and fleet movements. Every display reinforced the reality. Humans were capable, organized, and determined. Some aliens began to look uneasy, realizing that ignoring humans could be a mistake. After hours of debate, it was clear that no agreement could be reached. Alien leaders tried procedural maneuvers, hoping to force a signature or consent. Daniel refused politely but firmly. Claire emphasized that humans would not compromise their freedom. The session ended in a formal declaration. Negotiations had collapsed. Humans would not accept the proposed restrictions, and the council had failed to reach consensus. Outside the council hall, whispers spread quickly. Some aliens were impressed by humanity's courage and unity, while others were uneasy about what humans might do next. Daniel and Claire walked through the station corridors, noting the cautious glances from those they passed. They were aware that their decision would change how the galaxy viewed humanity. It was no longer a species to dismiss or underestimate. Back on Earth, news of the collapsed negotiations sparked excitement and pride. People celebrated humanity's courage and independence. Scientists and engineers worked with renewed energy, expanding research and fleet capabilities. Politicians spoke of humanity's place in the galaxy with confidence. The sense of unity and determination strengthened every human effort. As humans departed from the council station, Daniel and Claire observed the galaxy through the observation deck. Ships from other civilizations moved in calculated patterns, and trade routes glimmered like veins of light. Claire spoke quietly. "They will fear us now, not because we are violent, but because we are determined and united." Daniel nodded, knowing that their species' decision had changed the balance of attention in the galaxy. Rumors spread quickly among alien civilizations. Intelligence networks recorded human movements, the speed of colony expansion, and the efficiency of human fleets. Some species began stockpiling weapons, others attempted to build alliances, and a few considered diplomacy to secure trade before humans became too independent. Everywhere, the perception of humanity shifted from curiosity to caution, respect, and fear. On the way to new territories, humans established communication with distant colonies and allies. Daniel oversaw fleet movements and logistics, while Claire coordinated messages to potential partners. They worked as a team, combining strategy and diplomacy, showing that humans could lead without coercion and could inspire trust even while asserting independence. The first step had been taken, and it was significant. Humans had faced a council that expected obedience and compromise, and they had walked away with dignity and strength. Some aliens would remember their words, others would underestimate them at first, but the truth of human capability was now clear. It was not just about technology or colonies. It was about courage, unity, and refusal to accept limitations imposed unjustly. Even in distant sectors, whispers traveled. Some alien leaders debated quietly, warning their peers to watch humans carefully. Others considered early alliances, hoping to gain favor or trade advantages. Daniel and Claire understood that the galaxy was beginning to shift in perception. Humans were not just a small species from a blue planet. They were a force that could not be ignored. At night aboard the human flagship, Daniel and Claire looked at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown threats and possibilities. Yet humans had taken the first real step into this larger world, not with weapons but with courage, clarity, and calm determination. Claire said softly, "We have shown them who we are. They cannot push us around anymore." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The galaxy was watching. Humans had walked away from negotiations, but they had done more than that. They had shown their strength, their intelligence, and their independence. In the coming days, alien civilizations would need to adjust their strategies, rethink their assumptions, and consider new ways to interact with humanity. It was the start of a new era, one where humans would not be dictated to or underestimated. Daniel and Claire prepared for the next challenges, knowing they would be many. But for now, they allowed a quiet sense of satisfaction. They had defended humanity's right to grow, to explore, and to exist without control. They had faced the council and walked away, and in doing so, had ensured that the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. As the human ships moved toward the edges of explored space, fleets of other species observed cautiously. Alliances shifted, intelligence reports were updated, and fear began to ripple quietly across the stars. Humans were no longer a young species to be ignored. They were a presence, growing steadily, capable of changing the balance of power. Daniel and Claire stood together on the bridge, looking ahead. They knew this was only the beginning. Every colony established, every fleet launched, every new contact made would shape the galaxy's perception. But humans had proven that they could act with confidence and unity. They had faced the council, refused to be controlled, and left a lasting impression. The galaxy had noticed, and the fear and respect of humanity. The humans left the council station quietly, but the feeling of tension followed them. Daniel Lewis and Claire Morgan stood on the observation deck of their flagship, looking out at the galaxy they had only begun to understand. Ships of other civilizations moved between stars, and the glow of distant planets filled the void with color. For the first time, humans were not just observers. They were active participants, and their presence was already causing unease in the wider galaxy. Daniel turned to Claire. "They will be cautious now. Some may try to challenge us, but most will think twice before underestimating humanity." Claire nodded. They had made their position clear. Humans were independent, capable, and united. They had refused to be controlled, and now the galaxy was taking notice. As the fleet moved toward new territories, humans established communication links with their colonies. Messages of encouragement and guidance were sent to governors, fleet commanders, and scientists. Every colony was reminded that humanity had the right to grow and explore freely. Daniel and Claire knew that each successful colony would strengthen their position and spread respect for humans throughout the stars. Back on Earth, people celebrated the news that negotiations had collapsed. The human public did not see fear or anger in the Council's actions. They only saw that their species had stood firm. Scientists accelerated research projects, engineers designed larger and faster ships, and politicians spoke with renewed confidence about humanity's role in the galaxy. For the first time, humans felt the full weight of their independence and the possibilities it offered. Some alien species reacted with fear. Intelligence reports reached distant worlds describing humans' colonies, fleets, and rapid technological progress. Certain leaders began to stockpile weapons, believing that humans might become a threat in the near future. Others started secret conversations seeking trade alliances or partnerships before humans grew too powerful. Across the galaxy, the perception of humanity began to shift from curiosity to respect and caution. Daniel and Claire worked tirelessly to maintain control over the situation. They coordinated fleet movements, checked on the status of colonies, and ensured that human fleets could respond quickly to any threat. Claire sent messages of reassurance to allied species, explaining that humans wanted cooperation and partnership. She reminded them that humans did not seek domination, but would protect themselves if challenged. Many alien leaders began to reconsider their opinions of humans, realizing that a direct confrontation would be unwise. As days passed, humans explored new systems, establishing trade routes and sending scientists to study distant planets. Colonies flourished under careful guidance, and human fleets grew steadily. Everywhere humans went, they demonstrated intelligence, organization, and unity. Alien observers reported with surprise how efficiently humans managed resources and solved problems. Some began to whisper among themselves, questioning whether they had underestimated humanity's potential. Despite their outward calm, Daniel and Claire knew the galaxy was changing around them. Some species were fearful, some cautious, and some curious. They understood that humans had made a statement. They would not be controlled, and they would not allow fear to dictate their growth. Every decision, every colony, every fleet movement was a message to the galaxy that humans were capable, united, and determined. While humans moved forward, alien leaders debated among themselves. Some suggested forming alliances to counterbalance human influence, while others advised caution. Councillor Varel from Catal urged preparation for conflict, but other council members hesitated. They could not deny the evidence. Humans were organized, powerful, and capable of rapid expansion. The more they observed, the more they realized that attempting to control humans would likely fail. Daniel and Claire were aware of the subtle changes in alien behavior. Communications were monitored for signs of hostility or alliance offers. Diplomacy continued quietly alongside exploration. Claire carefully negotiated with several alien leaders, offering trade and collaboration while maintaining human independence. Daniel oversaw fleet patrols and logistics, ensuring that every colony and fleet was ready to respond to emergencies. Humans were building a reputation not of fear or aggression, but of competence and reliability. Colonies in distant systems sent updates regularly. Resources were abundant, communities were self-sufficient, and trade with friendly species increased steadily. Daniel visited several colonies in person, meeting leaders and citizens. He encouraged innovation and cooperation, emphasizing that humans could achieve great things while remaining united. Claire focused on diplomacy, reaching out to alien species that had not yet formed opinions about humans. Slowly, cautious respect began to replace fear and suspicion. Despite progress, Daniel and Claire knew that challenges remained. Some alien species still viewed humans with suspicion or envy. Others debated secretly whether humanity should be limited or contained. The humans' refusal to accept the Council's treaty had sent a strong message. Humanity would not compromise its growth or independence. Daniel and Claire understood that they had not only walked away from a negotiation, they had changed the rules of interaction with their species. One evening, aboard the flagship, Daniel looked out at the stars. "We have done more than leave the Council. We have shown them that humans cannot be ignored." Claire nodded, her eyes following the faint glow of distant colonies. "And the galaxy is listening," she said. They knew that every decision from this point on would be watched carefully. Humans were no longer just another species. They were a presence that commanded attention. Rumors of human strength and organization spread quickly. Some alien species sought alliance offers, hoping to secure trade and protection. Others stockpiled resources and trained fleets, wary of any future challenge. The galaxy was adjusting, slowly realizing that humans were not like any other species they had encountered. Humans acted with reason, courage, and unity, and that combination was difficult for others to predict or counter. Back on the flagship, Daniel and Claire continued planning. They mapped new trade routes, established fleet patrols, and organized scientific expeditions. They emphasized that humans would act with fairness and integrity, but any attempt to limit or threaten their growth would be met with firm response. The galaxy had seen only the beginning of human determination, and the message was clear: humans would not be controlled. As weeks passed, the human presence in new sectors strengthened. Colonies thrived, fleets expanded, and communication networks grew. Alien observers continued to report with growing concern and respect. Daniel and Claire worked tirelessly to maintain coordination, knowing that every success strengthened humanity's position and reshaped the galaxy's perception. One day, a communication arrived from a distant species. They requested a meeting to discuss trade and exploration opportunities. Claire responded carefully, emphasizing partnership and mutual respect. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humans could be trusted allies, but they were also independent and capable of protecting their interests. Every message, every decision, every action reinforced that humanity was no longer to be underestimated. Daniel and Claire looked at each other, knowing that their work was far from over. The galaxy was vast, full of opportunities, challenges, and unknown dangers, yet humanity had begun to leave its mark. The Council had underestimated them, and many species had doubted them. But humans had walked away, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy that they were united, capable, and determined. Even as the fleet moved toward new systems, humans knew that the story of their independence would spread further. Colonies would grow, alliances would form, and respect and fear would follow. Daniel and Claire understood that every step they took would shape the galaxy's perception of humanity. They had walked away from negotiations, and now the galaxy would never view humans the same way again. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and human ships moved steadily through the void. Daniel and Claire stood on the bridge looking at the future. "This is only the beginning," Daniel said quietly. "They will remember humanity from this moment on." Claire nodded. The galaxy had begun to fear humanity, not because they were violent, but because they were strong, united and unyielding in their determination to grow and explore. As humans moved further into unexplored space, the galaxy began to respond in ways that were both subtle and obvious. Alien species observed human fleets, trade networks, and colonies, and reports flowed quickly through communication channels. Some species were cautious, unsure whether humans were friendly or dangerous. Others feared what humans could do if provoked. The decisions made by Daniel Lewis and Claire Morgan now echoed across multiple systems, and the presence of humanity was changing the balance of attention in the galaxy. Daniel oversaw fleet movements with precision. Each ship had clear instructions, and supply lines were carefully maintained. Colonies received steady shipments of equipment, scientific instruments, and communication devices. Every step was planned to ensure human presence remained strong and self-sufficient. Claire focused on diplomacy, sending messages to alien species that had not yet interacted with humans. She emphasized partnership, trade, and mutual respect while making it clear that humans would not accept coercion or control. In the council chambers of distant worlds, leaders debated in private. Some argued that humans were a rising threat, and that the galaxy should take measures to limit their influence. Councillor Varel from Catal insisted that humans could not be trusted, and recommended the strengthening of fleets and weapons. Others disagreed, saying that direct confrontation with humans could fail, and that diplomacy and trade were better paths. The uncertainty surrounding humanity created tension and unease that had never existed before. Meanwhile, human colonies thrived. Settlers on new worlds adapted quickly, building infrastructure, growing food, and creating local governance systems. Scientists explored planets, discovered resources, and developed technology to improve life and security. Daniel visited several colonies, encouraging leaders and citizens, reminding them that they were the first wave of a species that could shape the galaxy through courage and cooperation. Claire worked with local councils and alien partners, showing that humans could interact respectfully while maintaining independence. The efficiency and growth of humans surprised many alien observers. Fleets moved with coordination, colonies operated with self-sufficiency, and trade networks expanded rapidly. Intelligence reports began to describe humans as unpredictable in a positive way, capable of solving problems quickly and innovating faster than expected. Some species who had doubted humans were now quietly re-evaluating their assumptions. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humans were not like any other species they had encountered. As weeks passed, some aliens attempted subtle tests, sending small groups of ships near human colonies or trade routes. Daniel ensured that human fleets observed carefully, but no aggression was initiated. Claire used these opportunities to send messages of reassurance and diplomacy, emphasizing that humans valued cooperation and peace. Many aliens began to recognize that humans were not reckless but firm and intelligent. Respect began to replace suspicion in some quarters, while fear continued to grow in others. One day, a message arrived from a coalition of species that had previously dismissed humanity as insignificant. They requested an audience with Claire to discuss trade agreements and mutual exploration. Claire responded with caution but willingness, setting up meetings that emphasized partnership without surrendering human autonomy. Daniel coordinated fleet patrols nearby, ensuring that all human colonies and ships were ready for any unexpected developments. Humans were showing the galaxy that strength and diplomacy could coexist. The more humans expanded, the more other species realized that underestimating them could be dangerous. Aliens who had previously tried to impose restrictions on human colonies now debated whether to establish alliances instead. Trade routes once ignored were now observed closely, and scientific discoveries from human worlds began to attract attention. Daniel and Claire understood that this was the beginning of a new era. Humans were becoming a force to be considered, respected and in some cases feared. On one of the outer colonies, Daniel watched the construction of a large research facility. Citizens moved efficiently, working together with machines and tools that humans had developed. Claire communicated with local leaders, providing guidance on administration and diplomacy. Every success, every colony, and every fleet maneuver was proof that humans could thrive independently and responsibly. Aliens who witnessed this quietly reported back to their leaders, often with surprise and caution. As human influence spread, some alien species began forming new alliances, hoping to balance potential human expansion. Others prepared defenses in case humans ever chose to act aggressively. Daniel and Claire observed these developments carefully, understanding that perception was as important as action. Humans were not seeking conflict, but they were demonstrating capability and determination, which made the galaxy watch and reconsider old assumptions. Even as trade agreements and exploration missions expanded, there were challenges. Some species still doubted human motives and questioned their intentions. Claire navigated these interactions carefully, maintaining clarity and patience while asserting that humans valued fairness and independence. Daniel ensured that fleets were ready for any situation, emphasizing preparedness without aggression. Humans moved forward with confidence, showing that they could act decisively and responsibly at the same time. Across the galaxy, intelligence reports about humans grew more detailed. Leaders noted the speed of expansion, the organization of colonies, and the efficiency of fleets. Some debated whether humans could be persuaded to join councils or alliances, while others feared that humans could one day dominate key systems if unchecked. The uncertainty created by humanity's independence began to shape strategies, alliances, and priorities in ways that had never happened before. Despite the challenges, humans continued to expand. Colonies on new worlds adapted quickly, creating local governance and defense systems. Trade networks grew stronger, connecting human worlds with other species that were willing to cooperate. Scientific expeditions brought back discoveries that amazed other civilizations. Daniel and Claire traveled often, overseeing development, ensuring that humans maintained their independence while demonstrating competence and fairness. One evening, aboard the flagship, Daniel and Claire looked at the stars. Claire said quietly, "Every colony we establish, every fleet we send, every alliance we make is a reminder that humanity cannot be ignored." Daniel nodded, watching distant planets drift past. "The galaxy is beginning to understand who we are," he said. Humans were no longer just a young species. They were becoming a presence that commanded attention. Rumors of human success and efficiency traveled quickly. Some alien species sought early partnerships, hoping to benefit from cooperation. Others prepared quietly, fearing that any miscalculation could be dangerous. The perception of humans had shifted. They were seen as capable, united, and unyielding in their determination to grow. The galaxy was beginning to recognize that humans were a force to be considered seriously. In distant council chambers, debates continued. Some leaders suggested direct contact with human colonies, hoping to establish trade or alliances before humans grew too strong. Others warned against any misstep that could provoke human response. Daniel and Claire monitored these developments closely, aware that every interaction, every decision, and every report influenced the galaxy's perception of humanity. Humans were demonstrating that they could act with integrity, strength, and unity. And the galaxy was noticing. As weeks turned into months, humans reached even more systems. Colonies thrived. Trade networks connected distant worlds, and scientific discoveries expanded knowledge. Every step strengthened humanity's position. Daniel and Claire understood that they were shaping not only their species' future, but also the galaxy's perception of what humans could achieve. They had walked away from the Council, and now the galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity was a presence that could not be underestimated. Humanity's presence in the galaxy had grown steadily, and the changes were impossible to ignore. Daniel Lewis and Claire Morgan observed from the flagship as human colonies expanded in multiple systems. Trade routes linked worlds that had never been connected, and scientific stations sent back discoveries that fascinated and sometimes alarmed other civilizations. Humans moved with purpose, not aggression, but their unity and determination were clear to all who watched. Daniel reviewed fleet movements, ensuring that every ship was in position and that supply lines were secure. Colonies were thriving, each with self-sufficient systems of governance, production, and research. Claire monitored diplomatic communications, receiving messages from alien leaders who had once doubted humans, but were now willing to discuss trade and alliances. Some species reached out cautiously, hoping to learn from humanity's methods rather than oppose them. The perception of humans had shifted from curiosity to respect and fear. Many alien civilizations had underestimated them, and that mistake was becoming obvious. The efficiency of human fleets, the rapid growth of colonies, and the success of scientific missions made it clear that humans were capable of far more than most species had expected. Daniel and Claire understood the significance. Humanity was no longer a minor presence in the galaxy. It was a force that others had to consider carefully. In one of the newer colonies, settlers had built a large communication hub. Citizens worked together, coordinating shipments, maintaining defenses, and managing trade. Scientists studied local planets and sent findings back to Earth and other colonies. Daniel visited the hub to observe progress and encourage leaders. He spoke about the importance of cooperation and the value of demonstrating human competence without aggression. Claire met with local leaders to discuss diplomacy, trade agreements, and relations with nearby alien worlds. As humans expanded, some alien species attempted to test their strength. Small fleets appeared near human colonies, observing from a distance. Daniel ensured that humans monitored these actions carefully, but no hostile action was taken unless provoked. Claire used these moments to engage with alien leaders, offering explanations and reassurances. Humanity showed that it could act firmly while remaining fair and reasonable. The galaxy slowly began to understand that humans were unpredictable in a way that others could not control, but they were not reckless. Rumors of human capability and independence spread quickly. Some alien leaders sought alliances, hoping to benefit from trade and cooperation. Others quietly strengthened their fleets and defenses, uncertain how humans might act in the future. The collapse of negotiations at the Council had sent a clear message. Humans would not be controlled or limited, and their determination made the galaxy watch carefully. One evening, aboard the flagship, Daniel and Claire stood together, observing distant stars. Claire said, "Every colony we establish, every fleet we move, every alliance we make is proof that humans cannot be ignored." Daniel nodded. "And they will remember us," he replied. Humans were no longer simply observers in the galaxy. They were active participants shaping events through their courage, intelligence, and unity. In distant council chambers, alien leaders debated quietly. Some recognized the opportunity to ally with humans, while others feared the possibility of conflict if humans were opposed. Reports described the efficiency of human fleets, the success of colonies, and the careful diplomacy Claire had conducted. The uncertainty surrounding humanity had shifted the focus of the galaxy. Humans had walked away from negotiations, but in doing so, they had demonstrated strength, independence, and competence. Colonies continued to grow. Scientific research expanded human knowledge of planets, life forms, and energy sources. Trade networks connected human worlds with alien species willing to cooperate. Citizens worked together, learning to balance independence with collaboration. Daniel and Claire traveled frequently, ensuring that all colonies operated efficiently and that humans maintained their reputation as capable and reasonable. Every step reinforced the idea that humans could act with both strength and integrity. One day, a message arrived from an alien species seeking a formal alliance. Claire responded carefully, emphasizing mutual respect, shared trade, and exploration. Daniel coordinated fleet support near the system to show readiness without intimidation. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity could be trusted as a partner, but would also protect its interests firmly. Every action reinforced humans' growing reputation. As weeks turned into months, humans reached more systems. Colonies became centers of trade, research, and governance. Fleets patrolled trade routes, ensuring security, and maintained communication with distant worlds. Daniel and Claire worked tirelessly to maintain coordination, planning expansions, monitoring potential threats, and fostering diplomacy. Humans were demonstrating that independence, capability, and cooperation could coexist. Some alien species continued to fear humans. They debated how to interact with a species that had proven it could not be controlled. Others began to seek alliances quietly, hoping to secure trade or protection. Humans had walked away from council negotiations without conflict, yet they had changed perceptions across the galaxy. Their success was now visible in multiple sectors, and the ripple effect continued to grow. Daniel visited a colony on a newly established planet. Settlers were working together to build infrastructure, farms, and research facilities. He encouraged them to remain cooperative and resilient, emphasizing that humans could succeed without aggression. Claire coordinated with neighboring alien species, negotiating trade and scientific collaboration. The galaxy was noticing that humans could act responsibly yet firmly, and that combination was unusual and difficult to predict. Even as humans expanded, Daniel and Claire remained vigilant. Fleet patrols monitored nearby sectors, trade networks were reinforced, and colonies continued to operate efficiently. The galaxy's perception of humanity was evolving. Fear and respect coexisted with curiosity and the desire for partnership. Humanity had walked away from negotiation, but it had done so in a way that demonstrated strength, independence, and intelligence. One evening, Daniel and Claire stood on the observation deck of the flagship, watching distant stars. Claire said, "This is only the beginning. The galaxy has seen our determination and competence, and it will remember it." Daniel nodded. "We have shown them who we are, and that humans cannot be underestimated." They understood that humanity had changed the balance of attention in the galaxy. Other species would now approach humans with respect, caution, and careful consideration. Trade agreements expanded, colonies thrived, and fleets continued to patrol efficiently. Alien species that had once doubted humans now sought partnership or at least cooperation. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humans could act firmly and fairly, with unity and intelligence. Daniel and Claire knew that the decisions made over the past months had not only secured humanity's independence, but also ensured that humans were seen as a capable and respected presence. As the flagship moved toward another sector, Daniel looked at Claire and said, "We have built more than colonies. We have built a reputation. The galaxy knows we are not to be underestimated." Claire smiled, watching the stars pass by. "And they will continue to notice every step we take," she said. Humanity had walked away from the council, but in doing so, they had set the stage for a future where humans would be a force in the galaxy that others could not ignore. Across distant worlds, whispers of human capability spread further. Some species sought alliances to secure trade and knowledge. Others prepared quietly, unsure how humans might act in the future. The galaxy's perception had shifted irreversibly. Humans were no longer just another species. They were a presence that demanded consideration, respect, and caution. Daniel and Claire understood that this was the moment humanity had reached a new stage of existence. The stars stretched endlessly, and human ships moved steadily through the void. Every colony, every fleet, every trade route demonstrated humanity's unity, courage, and intelligence. Daniel and Claire stood together on the bridge, knowing that the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. They had walked away from negotiation and in doing so, had shown that humanity could shape its own destiny while remaining firm, fair, and capable. The galaxy had begun to fear humanity, not because humans were violent, but because they were strong, united, and determined. Their independence had become clear to all, and the ripple effect would shape politics, trade, and diplomacy for years to come. Humans had arrived, and their presence would not be ignored. The future was wide open, full of challenges and opportunities, but humanity had proven it could meet them all. Daniel and Claire looked at the stars one last time before retiring for the night. Quietly, they knew that humanity had not just survived the Council or expanded colonies. They had shown the galaxy that humans were a force of their own, capable of shaping the future, and worthy of both respect and caution. The journey was just beginning, but humans had already made history in the stars.